Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm working on this 500 watt generator made by Sears and Roebuck. This is powered by a 2-stroke engine and it's about 40 years old. Now, the last time it ran was about 13 years ago, and I don't know what the condition is now other than the engine does pull over fine and it seems to have good compression, so I don't think we're going to have an issue there, but I am a little bit worried about spark. Given its age, it might have a points and condenser, and I'm going to venture to say that parts, I'm sure, are no longer available for this. Now, I got this generator from Stanley. He's given a lot of equipment to the channel recently, and he was the original owner, and this has been well cared for, so I think this one has a pretty good chance of starting up and running just fine. So let me get you set up a little bit better. I'm going to start just by getting the spark tester on there and see if we have any spark. All right, we'll switch it to run. Nice, and we got spark. So let's get the plug out, we'll get a little fuel down in there, and see if it starts. That plug is really stuck. Oh, there we go. We're set to run. Turn the choke on. Nice. Not too bad. The engine sounded pretty good for the second it ran, so I'm going to do the easy thing here. Add a little bit of fuel in that tank and try it again. Nothing. Let me add a little bit more fuel. I'm not sure if I added enough. Nothing. Plug's dry. There's no fuel making it. So I'm gonna put a little bit more in the top end, get it started. Potentially it might prime once it's running. That's pretty impressive for a 40-year-old generator. Granted, it was hard to start, but once running, I was able to turn the choke off right away. The generator head makes power, and we were at 120 volts, about 60.5 hertz. And you can't ask for much more, but I wouldn't say we're done yet. I mean, there are a few things that need to be checked out. You know, first off, we're missing what I think is the air filter and air filter cover. And I'm sure the fuel lines are cracked and dry rot. And the engine, although it ran well, it was running really smooth for a two-stroke engine. So it might be a touch lean. So with the covers off, I can get it running again, kind of fine-tune that carburetor, and then we can do a little bit of load testing. I'm not sure what this is. I assumed it was an airbox, but there are no passages going anywhere in this box. So yeah, not exactly sure what that is. Come back to that later. And as far as getting this cover off, I'm not really sure how to do that. I'm not seeing any bolts or screws anywhere, at least on the outside of this. So I'm going to start just getting the handle off and see if that sheds any light on the issue. Wow, this one is pretty unique in that we have a belt drive generator. Usually I don't see that on portable generators, but having the belt is going to allow the engine to run at a different speed from the generator, because the generator, it has to run at 3600 RPM to get 60 Hertz out. But with a smaller pulley on that engine, it's going to mean that the engine can run faster to get that 3600 RPM on the generator. So I'm guessing the engine, most likely it's running in the 5000 RPM range. I see a capacitor here, 40 years old, so we'll double check that. That means this is a brushless generator. And the starter recoil, also very unique. It's not connected to the engine, it's actually connected to the pulley on the generator. And when you pull it over, it turns the engine over via that belt. The fuel tank, also very unique. The fill tube, it comes right down to the base, and the tank is actually the base of the unit. So very interesting. Let's check out the other side. Carburetor looks fairly typical setup. We got a float down at the bottom and an adjustment here for the pilot. The air intake is here. It goes down to the air box, so we'll double check the condition of that filter. There is a fuel pump in here, so there's a diaphragm. The fuel line actually seems fine. It's not petrified. Don't see any cracks, so most likely that can be left alone. This mystery box is still a mystery. Don't see any purpose for that. And the windings look to be in excellent condition. So for a 40-year-old generator, I mean, this is a very clean, very well designed unit. They don't make them like this anymore. Don't really see a way to get the airbox opened. So I'm going to remove the bolts here and just remove the whole assembly and get a closer look up on the bench. Doesn't look like this airbox opens. I can see a seam, but it looks to be glued in place or maybe melted. All right, let's pop one of these out, see if there's anything underneath of interest. Nope, nothing in there. This must be the air intake for the airbox. It's interesting. And the air filter's up there. So yeah, it needs to come out. I mean, it's disintegrating. Wow. Can't even pull it out. It's just turning into dust. I was hoping to use it to measure it up and cut up a new one, because every single part for this generator is discontinued, so I cannot order a new one. Yeah, these filters don't last long. about 10 years, they start falling apart. In 20 years, if you touch them, they kind of tear apart. But this one, it just turned to dust. I think it's all out. So I'm gonna get this plug out as well. I think the purpose of these are to actually create a space so the air filter isn't right up against here. And once you slide this in place, it kind of holds the filter right in the middle. So yeah, we'll blow this out, cut up a new one roughly this size, and put it all back together. All right, let's see what we have here. This filter, it is from a Yamaha. A little thick, maybe too thick, because the filter we want, it needs to be, I'd say about 1/2 inch, because it's going to get sandwiched between the insert here and this plug. So we want the filter to be about that wide. I'd say that's a 1/2 inch at least. So that one looks pretty good, actually. That's from a Subaru. So we'll keep that on the short list. Maybe. A little thin. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think the Subaru one should do. .3 inches that way, and 3.2. Not bad. Well, for whatever reason, I decided to take the carburetor off and see if I could find any identifying information. And for the most part, came up empty. I only see a TK there and Japan on this side. But everything on this machine is discontinued. I was hoping this might be a name brand carb in case I needed a new diaphragm. But more surprisingly, when I went to disconnect this from the linkage, the fuel line broke in 3 places. It snapped going over to the primer, and the line that goes down to the tank split down the length and cracked on the top and bottom. So yeah, I think we need a new fuel line. I think the hard thing here is that the fuel line where it goes into the tank, it's somewhere under the engine. So I need to remove the bolts in each corner, lift the engine and generator off the tank to gain access to what I need. Need to be very careful here. If I ruin this bushing, that's it, we're done. That might be it. The inner diameter looks the same. Outer is a little bit thicker, but in this case, I don't think it's going to matter. Usually on something this size, I'd go to 40 inch-pounds, but I don't have a service manual on this, and I don't want to break anything because there are no parts available for this, new or used. And when searching for this one on Google, there's only one picture in existence. So I'd say this one's pretty rare. All right, we're going to test the capacitor. Technically, you don't have to uninstall it to do the test. You just need to remove the leads down here on the bottom, but I can't read the microfarad rating with this strap in the way. Make sure it's discharged, and it is. This one is rated at 7 microfarads, so let's see where this 40-year-old capacitor comes in at. All right, let's see where this is at. It's usually plus or minus about 5%. That's pretty good, 7.2 microfarads. So yeah, the 40-year-old capacitor seems to be good. And that's pretty much it for now. I put this on purely to hold the high voltage stuff in place. I don't want to have any incidents, but I want to leave the covering off, especially on the engine side, so I can make adjustments as needed to that carburetor. And I may not need to, given the fact that the air filter that was in there was doing absolutely nothing. And the new one, it is oiled and intact, so it's going to add some drag to the air going through the air intake, and that's just going to richen up the engine a bit, and that might be enough. You know, regardless, it needs to be tested, and I want to bump the engine speed up a little bit because ideally the output on that generator would be 61.5 Hertz, and we were at around 60.5. So the only consideration leaving this cover off, especially the end cover, is that this has the ignition switch to stop the engine. And when you flip it to stop, it sent a ground across the top of the engine, actually in the handle, and it connected over here to kill spark. So I'm going to rig up something temporary here, and then we'll bring it out and give it another try. It's surprisingly hard to find a load to properly test this generator, but this is what I've come up with. I've got 4 lights. Each one is 70 watts. That'll bring it up to 240 watts. Each of these fans on high is 100 watts each. And then we can turn on the drop light for an extra 70 watts, bringing it just above 500 watts. So I'm going to get this started, let it warm up. I'm not going to make any adjustments to start with. We'll do some testing and see how it does. Smell fuel. For a 40-year-old generator, this thing did a great job. It was a little hard to start, but once started, things ran quite well. It was running at 62 Hertz, 121 volts. I then applied a half load, and things are pretty much dead on at 60 Hertz, 120 volts, and then brought it up to the max, and the engine held at about 58.5 Hertz. The voltage, though, it did sag to about 112 volts. So there's not a whole lot that can be done to improve on that other than to replace a bad capacitor, which this one we know is good, or speed the engine up. But I'm happy with the speed that it's running at. So I'm going to leave good enough alone. The carburetor, there was a slight oscillation or surge under a half load. So I opened up that needle jet about a half turn and things seemed to settle down. So I'm going to get this back inside and finish it up. All right, let's see if I remember how this thing goes back together. I have the original manual that came with this generator. I was just flipping through it, looking for a date, and haven't come up with one. But I did finally discover what this box is for. It's actually meant for holding DC charging cables. It is a storage compartment, and there's supposed to be a cover that just bolts on and holds those cables in place. But I found something else which I did not expect to see. This two-stroke engine needs motor oil. There is a screw right here, and that goes to the governor system. And it says every 100 hours, pull the oil filler screw, make sure it's full to the top, and if it's not, inject some oil until it spills out and put that screw back in place. So that's what I'm going to do. And as far as what to do with this gaping hole here, I think I have an idea. The original piece, it's no longer available. Nothing on this generator is available, but this size is very similar to an electrical box. It's actually slightly smaller. I was thinking originally I could drill out each corner and just use these existing holes, but I don't think that's going to work. But if I pick up just a blank plate, drill a hole right in the center, I should be able to secure it. It'll paint it black, and it'll almost look like it belongs. Anyway, let's get that out, see if we have any oil. I don't think that one's ever been removed. Yeah, no oil dripping out. There is some in there though, so that's promising. Anyway, I'll add a little bit of 10W30 and call it good. I think that's it. I'm just going to give it a minute to stop dripping and reinstall that screw. So this is the plate that I picked up and I envisioned solving this problem. But now that it's here, I can see there's a few things I don't like about it. First, these notches do not look so hot. And also the plate is actually larger by about 1/4 inch all the way around. And now that we have the cover on, I can see it's going to cause some interference right there. So I was prepared to just cut up a piece of sheet metal to size and call it done. But as luck would have it, Stanley stopped by yesterday and dropped off a bunch of stuff. And a couple of those things were for this generator, like the proper cover and a part I didn't even know I was missing. This is a cover for the spark plug access. He also dropped off some more power equipment. A Honeywell inverter generator doesn't run. Mantis tiller doesn't run. And a steel chainsaw, which actually runs, but he had lent this to a friend some time ago, and that friend ran straight gasoline in it. So the piston and the cylinder, I am sure, are junk and have to be replaced. So, these will be for a different day, but hopefully someday soon. But for today, let's get this one finished up. Well, guys, that is pretty much a wrap. This generator, I didn't give much hope due to its age. It is 40 years old. I have never seen one like it and may never see one again. Not to mention parts are non-existent for this, new or used, and I thought for sure I was going to need something to get this to run, but as it turns out, it didn't need anything except a little bit of care. The engine came right to life, and the generator is making power. So yeah, older stuff, it is definitely built to last. So I hope this video helps someone. Thanks for watching.